Hi, everyone. It's Arnell from the Lending Language Lab. Welcome to the Lending Language Podcast. Woo! I'm going to add it to post. Okay, so before we dive in, I have a new person to introduce. Rosalie, why don't you introduce yourselves to everybody?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosalie. You can call me Ro for short. I am the new employee, part of Lending Language Lab, and I'm in charge of quite a few topics. One of those that you probably have recognized recently are the worksheets that we are producing for this month of April. I apologize if they're too cute. I can't control myself. I like cute things. So if you don't like the girly vibe, I'm sorry. There's nothing I could do. I really try to make it like less cutesy, but how can you not be motivated to learn English with these like cute little characters on the sheets? I mean, I can't help it. I can't help it. If you're curious about my credentials, I am a certified English teacher from the States. So if you ever have any questions on grammar, reading, or any requests for that kind of information, you know who to contact. Is kind of the nice thing about Arnell and I's relationship is we both come from different English learning environments, different English types, because she uses a lot of British English and I use a lot of American-based English words.
True.
So it's a good mix. Guys, we're lucky you're here.
Well, thank you for sharing. Um, just a bit about me. Hey, everyone. I'm Arnell. You've seen me before. I'm the founder of the Lending Language Lab. I created this company about 2 years ago. I am a TEFL certified teacher. I taught in Korea. I also taught online for Chinese students. Originally, my background was in business. So I got those sides to me, and then I pivoted and started doing teaching. Um, yeah. Now I'm here.
I swear, her and I are going to be the mirrors of
Exactly.
each other because I started off in teaching and now I'm switching
Yeah,
to
we're like
business.
two puzzle pieces
This is
coming
why we
together.
mesh. We
And I'm
mesh
also
very
from
well.
Canada. I forgot to mention that. She's from the States. I'm from Canada.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit of our introduction. So, why don't we start with how we actually met?
Okay, so Arnell already said she taught in Korea, and that's actually where we met. So after I graduated and got my teaching license, it was a bit hard to find a job in the States, and I kind of wanted to explore the world. So I decided to apply for Korea, and I ended up at a private English teaching academy. Those, for short, we're going to call them Hagwons, to be clear. So we say private English teaching academy.
Yeah.
And it was right when COVID started getting really bad in Korea. It was fine for a while. Then suddenly, bam, it got super bad. Because I came in like 2019, like in October. And I just had finished up was that in March?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. And then that was kind of a weird transition period because I came in the middle of another teacher's contract to take over for her. And so I did not have a friend group yet because at that point in time everyone has like established themselves, and it was my first time in a foreign country. It was craziness, and then COVID happened, and then the uncertainties have arisen, and you're like unsure about meeting people, going out. At that point in time I was like scared to go to the grocery store because I was like, oh my gosh, what happens if I catch COVID at the grocery store? And it was nuts. And so I think it was like I was going down to the convenience store and I happened to run into you and B.
Just a disclaimer, we're not going to be using anybody's names from our stories. So if you hear us say referring to letters or saying very, what's the word I'm looking for? Vague, that's the word. If we use like vague names to refer to things, we're trying not to get sued, So B, yes. You saw me with B.
Yes. So I ran into B, who was like, he's like in charge of all the other teachers at our school. And so,
Well, the foreign teachers, because remember, there was a difference.
and so he, what did he didn't get, oh my gosh, then didn't you have that such traumatizing experience with a taxi, right?
Oh, yeah, I will tell that story later.
So she comes in, and bless her, I was like, it was COVID, so I'm scared to like go outside and like talk to people. And bless Arnell, but she came up to me and she's like, "Hi, my name's Arnell. So nice to meet you. I'm a hugger." And I was like,
I was like, damn, this girl does not like me. I was hurt.
it's not because of that. I was like, oh my gosh, she just got off the plane. She's in Korea, like during COVID. I was like, I want to interact with you, but also at the same time, I was like, COVID.
I mean, for me, I wasn't really thinking of COVID in that moment. I was kind of just like being myself. I mean, you already know, I'm like very much so friendly when I'm meeting new people. So I wasn't really thinking about, oh, she may have the COVID. That was not the first thought of my mind.
You gotta remember, at that point in time, I was in Korea for like what 4 5 months, and I was already like, I don't know. Maybe you guys will get understanding why, but like I think I was a bit traumatized at that point in time because I've gone through like there was a lot of crazy stuff that was going on at the school that we were working for before Arnell came, because basically the teachers that were there when I got there all quit except for 2 of them. And there was a lot of drama. It was like, I always want to say K-dramas are not accurate, and like they're, like generally Korea is not that much of a dramatic society, but in the workplace, yeah,
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. But we met, and I think I ran into her because we didn't start school right away. Like basically, our school shut down like right after she got there.
Yeah, our school was shut down for like a month. I'll get into that later too.
Did we even have an in-person? Did we have an in-person meeting before that?
No.
No. So I think it was after, I don't know, like I ran into you.
Because we met in the apartment.
Yeah.
We were able to build a friendship by running into each other at the apartment. Oh, so side note, for anybody who doesn't know, me and Ro were neighbors.
Yes. What, you lived on, did you live on you lived like right down the hall. You literally 2 doors away from me. And so we ran into each other in the hallway all the time. And then our other...
Well, when I was moving from the temporary apartment that I was in, and I asked you and Elle for
that's right.
help, and you guys helped me move. And then we ended up hanging out that day. We went sightseeing.
It was a lot of fun. That's kind of where we started bonding. And then...
Yeah. We're not going to tell you guys what else we were doing that day, but...
Yeah, and that's where we are, like, 4 years since then, still friends.
Yeah.
Still talking on the daily. And you know what? When you make that friend that lasts forever, that's what we are.
Here.
Our friendship survived distance and time and drama. Typical, like, we had our little spats here and there back then, but that was... I honestly, I think it does not help that we had the stress of our work on top of us. But I think our fights would last like an hour, and then we'd be like, no.
I mean, we're like really level-headed, so we have like good conversation. And, like,
you're not friends unless you've had like a fight. Depending on the kind of fight you have, but like typically, I don't know. You have to like...
I wouldn't even call it a fight. It's more like a disagreement.
Yes, 100%. And we will talk about that later, because honestly, we have to have like a stories, like maybe in the future, we'll talk about like different experiences we had being an English teacher in Korea and just our lives in Korea. Because I feel like a lot of people are interested in Korea, especially because of K-pop and K-drama. And I I don't know. I think we had a pretty good experience, like mix to talk about it, because I am actually married to a Korean guy now. I mean, we have been integrated. We live there. We live the experience.
We definitely did. So now that you've met the dynamic duo, because that's what we are behind the mics, let's talk about why we're
Yes.
here. It's actually really funny because Ro was the one who came up with this idea for us to start this podcast. So why don't you let the people know what sparked the idea?
Basically, best way to learn a language is to hear people speak it. And also being able to interact and ask questions to a real life person is very important, I think, when it comes to learning language. Because, like, for instance, I am learning French right now. Like, I'm in France learning French, and it is so important to hear it, to speak it, to interact with people who speak the language you are trying to learn, in order to set those foundational skills. Especially because English, I think, when it's spoken, it can sound difficult because we use things like code switching, or we enunciate some words, but not all words. And depending on the conversation you are having, like when Arnell and I are just speaking casually one-on-one, it sounds a lot different than when we are teaching English to people who are trying to learn how to say words correctly. Because the point is you want to learn how to say it correctly before you start getting the code switching, of course, but also just hearing this practice and hearing us talk and tell stories and also interact with the audience during this time, especially to people who subscribe. We love you.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially because if you are someone who's very motivated and wanting to learn a language and not be stuck in a classroom, you know, classroom experience is good. Like, it's very good for foundational skills. But as people who have taught English, we can tell you the reality is it's much better to hold conversation and to hear people speak. I mean, my husband, who had learned English, he told me he learned English best through when he played video games and talking to people on the internet back in the day. That's why I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to interact with you guys and also to talk about concepts, or if you guys have questions that we notice popping up through Facebook. It's a good time to get to it right now to talk to you guys and answer your questions.
Definitely. I totally agree. The main goal for the Lending Language Lab is really to get you guys to learn English in a real way. But also, you know, we gotta sprinkle in the traditional way of learning, but it's definitely not going to be brick and mortar, you guys sitting and listening to instructions all the time. I definitely love that we're integrating more real conversations so you guys can also know slang and more informal speech so you can actually speak English like a native speaker. I mean, sometimes you guys are going to get our isms. So how do I explain what our isms are?
Like, some people, like for me, I have unique catchphrases that I will say constantly. It's just like how our personality comes out through the way that we speak. And so some people speak a certain kind of way. For instance, I'm trying to stop myself from doing this right now, but you might hear me go a lot. And I apologize. I'm going to work on getting rid of those ums. But
you say it again. For me, it's the like.
Yes.
Like.
Yes. Or I always say, for instance. I think that just comes from being a teacher. I always say, for example, for instance, as you can see here, because of A, B, C, D. It's just my habit, and I cannot get out of it, especially if I'm trying to speak in a way that responds to people who are asking me questions, specifically about question and grammar. So I might talk this way. And I code switch a lot between casual English to professional English. It just depends.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what code switching is, it's a way of speaking that a lot of native speakers use, where we have a certain a certain type of way to say things when we're in a
Yes.
particular setting. So, say if we are doing an interview, we will definitely code switch to more
Yep.
academic level language. Um, in this podcast, this is a more casual setting, so we'll be using more informal English, which would include slang. And
Yes.
so the same way we would be speaking here would not be how we would speak
No.
during a
No.
meeting, for example. Yeah.
I would I
No,
would
no.
not speak this way if I was in an interview. But if you guys are interested in learning more professional English, like
Well, that segues cleanly to what some topics you guys can expect in the
yes,
future of this podcast. So the first thing, of course, is to answer
oh,
lagging a little bit.
apologies.
Yeah, so we'll have Q&A questions. Hopefully, we could get it where you guys can call in and actually
hmm
practice with us live. Um, Now, of course, we may not always be live like today. So there will be a way for you guys to send in your questions and we will answer them sometime during the video. Um, we will definitely post on our Facebook how you can
hmm
do that. Also, we plan on giving you guys some tips on staple conversation starters that you can use in your daily life. For example, do you guys sometimes get nervous when ordering a meal in English? Well, in a future episode, we will be giving you tips and tricks to navigate that kind of scenario. We may do some role play where one of us will be an interviewer and one of us will play the interviewee, and we'll give you guys some um, guidance on how to navigate that kind
hmm
of setting while speaking English. We also may or may not be planning to start a book club.
Yes. Um.
You
So
wanna?
I am the big nerd of this duo, and I love reading.
Hey, hey, hey! I like
Okay.
reading too.
So we can expect Arnell to join us on our book club. But if you guys have ever
Yeah, but I love like different kinds of books than she may
true,
like.
we can even do like a voting for what kind of books you guys want to read in the future, or if you want, I can just choose a book. But basically, we're going to start. Maybe it depends on the response, but we can start a book club.
Yeah, if you guys
Yes.
want it, we don't want to do
No.
stuff that you guys don't want to do.
This is the nice thing about us is we are willing to work with you guys, especially our audience who wants to learn and like what kind of topics you guys are interested in learning. You can come to us and ask us about it. But this is one of the ideas that we kind of came up with as a way for you to interact and also feel like you are involved in your learning process is to perhaps start a book club. And if you've not heard of a book club before, it's basically when you choose one book, and this could be a book that can take like a month, or we can take 2 months, depending on how long we want to spread this out. But we read sections at a time, and then we meet together. We can either do this weekly or twice a month, once a month, depending on what you guys would like. And we could discuss what we thought about the book. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I read a book, I like to talk about it, especially if it's a book with situations that make you think about things in a personal way. Because that's the great thing about books is they transport you into a different world that's may not be your own, but it could talk about personal steps, struggles, um, revelations, new ideas, new concepts, things that you have not quite thought about before, or things that are making you think, like thought-provoking situations. That's the great thing about a book club is you have the opportunity to meet and to talk about it. And so we are considering about doing a book club with you all as a way to dive into the book, what questions we might be having, opinions we could discuss. Of course, openly and friendly. We're not going to have bashing other people's opinions because everyone's
You will get blocked.
yep.
Okay, you will get blocked. Please
In
don't.
this space, opinions are validated no matter what.
And remember,
Yes,
we're all
exactly.
learning here. So we're on the same level.
And then
in
it's
that
also
way.
a great time for you guys to ask us questions, because one of the best ways to learn English, and I will stand on my what's the word? like not my
Crystal
soapbox, you know, like some people like on my grave, on my mother's grave. But my mom's not there, so I'll say on my grandmother's grave. Reading is like the best way to learn English because when we think about the way that we speak, the way that we talk, I mean, it's replicated in the way that we write. And that could be either academically or informal. You will find a lot of books that are written in an informal context for you, the reader, to.
And it's not just for learners either. Us as
Yes.
native speakers, we still are
Yes.
reading and still learning new vocabulary to add to our own repertoire. Okay? So it's definitely across the board. Reading is
Yes.
fundamental
Even
in order
as
to
I
learn.
was a child growing up, I mean, we did testing on our reading abilities because they do it based off of a certain grade level. And it's a great way just to improve it
Mhm.
because it improves your memory, improves your vocabulary. It also shows you examples of different kind of sentence structures. Reading is so useful. So this is one of the reasons why we are considering doing a book club. But depending on the response, that's what matters because I don't want to start and be the only person in my own book club. I mean, not that I have a problem talking to myself. I'm not crazy.
But that is not the point
That's not the
again.
point.
So now that you know a bit about us and what we are all about, let's dive into the actual reason why we're here for this episode, our journey and antics in South Korea,
Yes.
and to starting the language lab and beyond. So grab your favorite snacks, cozy up, and let's kick off this journey together.
But I will be honest with you. I was lied to when I applied with this company because in my mind I always knew I wanted to end up in Busan.